Welcome back to Jolie's, where you can get some spicy sausage, roasted nuts, and the freshest React content on the tube. YouTube, that is. And today I mean it because I am reacting to DJ Peach Cobbler's latest video, which is called The Skull Measuring Cowboy. Ooh-wee. Yeehaw, brothers. Let's get into it in 3, 2, 1.
I have no thesis. We're not doing a thesis today.
Okay.
This is Yeehawesome.
We're just getting started right away, and the fact that he just straight up admits to not having a thesis is a thesis in of itself, wouldn't one say? Isn't it about the notes you don't play? Yeehaw summer. Yeah, baby. We're going to get more of these.
Today we are going to discuss a book which...
As a Southerner, I am, well, Texan. I'm excited. Texas is not the South. It is its own thing, man.
belongs in my favorite genre of historical fiction. I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably not gonna really fucking use this. It's a calendar, because other people, the people who live here, have schedules, and they go and they fucking do things. It's ridiculous and self-indulgent. Anyway, today we are going to discuss a book which belongs to my favorite genre of historical fiction, a genre I've taken to calling, yes, they deserved it, and I'd do it again.
And I slaughtered them like Adam.
Not eating the extremist allegations. Caesar's conquest of Gaul, Geronimo's story of his life.
Wait, yes, the Mexicans deserved it, and I'll do it again. Excellent. Yeah, this is something we have to remember. Geronimo was, you know, his enemy was the Mexicans. It's like very few people get to like trace their lineage back to indigenous. You know, Mexican people are, you know, just a kind of colonial mixture too.
The true history of the
Aztecs deserved it, and I'd do it again. We know this guy. Hey, Bernardo Diaz, my man. I can't wait to finish up the Aztec series. That should probably be just coming out later this week, because I did promise I would get to it before the end of the month. It's just been a busy month.
Conquest of New Spain by Bernardo Diaz, and now, Life Among the Apache by John C. Cremony. At no point did John Cremony ever live.
Oh, look at this guy. Let's do some phrenology on this dude. Look at that head. Look at that hairline. You know there was a certain amount of charisma inherent in people. This man saw a camera once in his life. Now, I'm sure that the photographers probably, like, there was a lot more faith put in the photographers, but this guy hit it. He hit a pose. He knew his good side upon seeing a camera for the first time. Give this man some credit. Now, I say all that, I have no idea the horrors that he might have accomplished if he's being lumped in with those other dudes. But, I mean, hey, great things can be horrific.
Among the Apache, so we're off to a rough start. I'm not saying, like, the book is a lie. I'm saying that the title is a lie. He never does it. He never does the title. The book itself is also, perhaps not coincidentally, lies. However, the entire preface is him saying over and over again, I have never lied. Would you trust?
Take it from experience. I would never, I try my damnedest not to lie. I kind of made that promise to myself, I don't know, sometime in my early 30s. I just decided that that was not how I wanted to live my life. But I would never tell you that I do not lie. I just tell you that it's my policy not to lie. I don't swear that I don't lie, because sometimes my girlfriend asks me if she looks fat in that. And she doesn't understand that yes is a good answer. Ooh, well, all right. I'm sorry, I'm a little horny tonight.
This mustache to provide reasonable and accurate information about Apache culture, life, and customs. Cremony encountered the Apache first in the 1850s when he served as an interpreter for the U.S. and Mexican Border Commission. He then returned as U.S. cavalry officer in the 1860s where he fought in the famous Battle of Apache Pass. There's a husky in the other room and he's making a ruckus. We can't be dealing with that. We're cowboys. We're on the trail. The largest battle of the long and bloody Apache Wars. He also served at Fort Sumner, which was, let's be real, the guardhouse for the Bosque Redondo death camp. The reservation, sorry. You didn't live among the Apache, John.
No.
You ended life among the Apache. This is the perspective.
This would be like if I were to say, I live in Houston, I live with black people. no, I live amongst black people and I interact with them on a near daily basis, but I could never claim that I live in a household, you know, like I live a black person's life. That would be ridiculous. And I don't have the hood pass. If I lived amongst black people, you would think I would have the hood pass, and I don't. If I did, it'd be here, framed on my wall.
Of an outsider, which is not to say it's useless, you know, one who supposedly wrote the first Apache to English dictionary for the U.S. Army. Ooh. He claims to be the first white dude ever to speak Apache.
No.
What a guy.
What?
John.
In 18... No fucking way. He lived in... What was that? 18 something? Oh my God, there's a blinking light on my camera. It makes me feel like I need to get up and look at what's going on. Otherwise, I'm going to be paranoid. But suffice to say, he lived well past anybody who would have been the first person to speak Apache. Like that is, there's no foreseeable way that like it went on that long and for him to be the first. That's a lie. I want to take a moment to thank you so much for watching my channel here at Joelie's. We appreciate it, and we would appreciate it even more if you could like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this tale of phrenology and lying professionally. You know, like lying for the fuck of it with your favorite liar in your life. I know you have one. And with that, let's get back into the video.
Cremini claims that he met Mangus Coloradus, legendary Apache chief and warrior. Now the thing about Mangus is, every white guy that met him devoted at least one paragraph to how fucking tall he was. 6'5" to 6'6". Broad as fuck, he was a big guy.
Yeah, I don't meet anybody above like 6'4" without like, you know, giving them the, what's the weather like up there? So, you know, I can believe this 100%. You meet somebody like that, especially back in those days, who just towers, that's going to be like a core memory.
Instead of harvesting hoes on Tinder, though, he mostly harvested white boy scalps. Every man that met Mangus talked about how tall he was, except for Cremini. Cremini estimates that Mangus Coloradus, who he calls Mangus Colorado for some fucking reason, was about 6 feet. His head was enormously large.
Interesting. Enormously large
Thirsting
head.
for that skull, huh, Cremini? Yeah, Cremini was into phrenology, the science of skull measuring different races, ascertaining the nature of a man by the shape of his...
You know, just the finer sciences, you know, the ones for the connoisseur sciences.
Skull. So here's my position on phrenology, if you want to know my actual position beneath all the fucking internet.
Totally for it. I'm putting my money down on it now. Chat, if I am wrong, don't say anything. I'll be very hurt if I'm wrong about what he's about to say. I think he's totally pro phrenology. Let's see.
Irony shit. If you are measuring the skulls of your enemies to prove they deserve it, they don't. They do not deserve whatever the fuck it is that led you to collecting and measuring their skulls. You sick freak. Although to be fair, phrenology was a hot new craze at the time.
Oh yeah.
Mangus's skull would be stolen after he was tortured and then shot to death by the U.S. government.
As happens when you try to do something worth a damn in this country, right, fellas? Right, comrades? Oh man, that sucks. Look at this. It's got a hole through his head. Oof.
Don't worry, it turns out his skull said he deserved it. So John Cremini didn't meet Mangus Coloradus. He met some Apache dude and decided once Mangus was a famous Apache warrior, oh yeah, that was definitely the guy that I played hopscotch with during the land survey over a decade ago. I'm gonna write that in my fucking book of lies because I'm a fucking liar. No one says he's 6 feet tall. And Cremini exaggerates. If Cremini met Mangus, he'd say he's 8 feet tall. Cremini is not too good with numbers in general.
What? A cowboy? Not too good with numbers? Back in the day? I mean, these are really simple numbers we're talking about. I wonder what was going on at the time that he couldn't, that the difference between 6 and 8 when it comes to feet would perplex him. You think they'd be better at that back then? Like measurements were probably an integral part of every day. knowing on sight how long a foot was and how long 5 feet was and how long 10 feet was, seems like it would have been important. I don't know.
Estimated that there were 700 Apache warriors at the Battle of Apache Pass on page 161 of this lie collection. There were, I hate to use the Wikipedia number, but there were like 200. Cremony, if there were 700 Apache warriors, you would not have lived to write your lie collection. You cannot write a paper about John Cremony being an unreliable source, right? Of course, he's an unreliable source. He was a cowboy phrenologist who looked like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may wonder...
I would say yes. Let's just say, bless his heart. Thank goodness the boy was handsome. That's what I would say about that guy. Though I do wonder, he's bringing up this idea of him being a rapscallion liar, which is true. Pretty obvious. You can tell somebody's lying. It's in the text. It's in the statistics. You can cross-reference, cross-check. I wonder if there was something about this era specifically, because this is the era of General Custer, right? Was there something, and this is the era of the West, was there something kind of like in the, the vibes of the era, as we would say today, like the psychograph of the era, like kind of floating around this idea of larger than life myth making? Is that because like most of the like a lot of the American myths come from this era, specifically the West, it being the most obvious. So I just wonder if there was something about that, like rapid settlement of new land and expansion that caused people to allow their flights of fancy to take them and to report them. Or if it just happens that those are the people who are those types of liars and fantastical storytellers are going to be the ones who succeed when just the worst things need to be done according to the people up top. They're just going that whoever can come back and tell the best story about what happened is actually the winner. I don't know. Also, probably maybe tweet worthy. The sort of line I would put in a book. But I had this thought the other day, or just earlier today, with my friend. The winners of history have trophies to polish, while the losers of history have axes to grind. Keep that in mind. Hey, ads, guys.
How I do it. How do I read page after page of verbose lies time and time again? Well, I pound a few energy drinks, put in my Raycon everyday earbuds, and listen.
Oh, also, I want to say, ever since, and I should be one to talk, ever since DJ Peach Cobbler kind of came out as an alcoholic or, having a drinking problem, I don't want to put words in his mouth and say he's an alcoholic. It does look like he's cut back, and you can tell, I think he's looking much closer to, obviously not Twink Cobbler as he was in some of his earliest videos, but he's definitely like not, poofy, like poofy Cobbler that he was for a few months there, for a few videos there. So just good on you, Peach. We're all pulling for you, and we understand you've definitely gone through something. It's hard to break up with your boyfriend, I'm sure.
Some good music. Also, look, I moved out of my friend's house. Thanks, Raycons. Also, thank you to Thelonious Monk, whose jazz piano pieces help me focus as dead men explain carefully how they've never, ever done anything bad. Raycons, despite starting at only half the price of other...
Your life had to go very badly. You had to do some awful things if you have to end your life by writing a book explaining why what the awful things you did were actually good.
Premium audio brands make it feel like Thelonious is in the room with me, and with just 10 minutes of charging giving me 90 minutes of battery, I can enjoy Dead Men's Lies for as long as I want. Generally, until the cat bothers me. Raycons can only do so much. With a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's absolutely no risk, so what are you waiting for? These everyday earbuds are so comfortable, I forget I'm even wearing them. Go to buyraycon.com/peachcobbler, or
it's worth
click
it.
my link in the description to get 15% off Raycon's best-selling everyday earbuds. Thanks, Raycon.
Wouldn't know nothing about that, brother. I'm an Apple man. AirPods through and through.
For sponsoring this video and helping me purchase a new closet for my cat.
There were many writings published by those that fought with or were kidnapped by the Apache. Also, actual Apache accounts survive. No one uses Cremony as a source. unless they are talking specifically about how brutal and awful the Apache are. Do not cite John Cremeny, the cowboy phrenologist. I will be reading otherwise good books about the Apache. Then they cite this fucking guy. However, I did find one woke citation. Woke. That's right, folks. They're getting woke.
Sorry, folks. I should have given y'all a trigger. I should have given y'all a woke trigger warning going into this. I did not know he was going to flash that word on screen. I do apologize. Please let us move on.
About the Indians now, saying that my pile of Apache skulls in some way reflects poorly upon my character. Sherry Robinson, in Apache Voices, their stories of survival as told to Eve Ball, presents Apache Voices. It's a collection of Apache testimonies strung together. You know, it's really excellent. Turns out Geronimo bitched out once, so that's pretty fucking wild.
Whom amongst us? Come on, cast the first stone if you haven't bitched out. Cast the first stone at Geronimo. Down in the comments if you've never bitched out.
Geronimo said, "Let us men escape the troops which surround us. We could if we leave the women and children." Foon spoke. "Geronimo, if you say that again, I'm going to shoot you down right."
Apache Voices is,
Beast Foon,
as you could imagine, a much more pro-Apache text than the war crimes diary of a cowboy phrenologist. Indeed, gentlemen, we're
probably should have been called Life Around the Apache because you were constantly surrounding them waiting to genocide.
dealing with a liberal who argues that there were female Apache warriors. Now, in all seriousness, and I don't mean to get controversial, we all have our biases. Modern academia likes girl bosses. Who doesn't? Girl bosses get it done. But, yeah, I think it's more than plausible. It aligns with Apache.
Wait, I like to stop and read these things in case you're just listening. So it's what is that site called? A Snopes, it looks like, because it has the truthometer. It says mostly true, likely. So most true, likely. So, yeah, PolitiFact, truthometer. Fellow Apache scholar Dan Tharp, trying to help, wrote to Eve, with regard to Lawson, I have found something that will be of help in explaining her. I think in a footnote or otherwise, Goodwin, in his social organization, parentheses, a very careful, honest work, as you know, says on page 537, in very rare instances, women even went to war and helped fight and kill the enemy. Such women were not ridiculed for doing as men did, for they were not trying to be masculine, but merely participate in as a brave woman. I think it might be worthwhile mentioning that reference somewhere, if you can, because it would ease the doubts of some. Tharp to Ball, 20th of January, 1970, Ball, Massachusetts, Ball MSS, from Apache Voices. See, let's just point out the very, very, very specific word in very rare instances. This means like fewer than 1%, possibly. Also, probably in very desperate instances. I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah, I'm not, I'm not like some apologist. I do believe women can be strong warriors in their own way, especially as times modernize and they have like more options. But I think that to over spotlight, you need to like underscore the very rare instances. I think to over spotlight it or draw too much of attention to it for how small of a sample size it probably was is, this is very much a man bites dog situation.
Values in a lot of ways. Geronimo has a story about one lady who
Okay, I'm going to read this one too. Okay, upon one of these excursions, a woman named Chokili got lost from the party and was riding her pony through a thicket in search of her friends. Her little dog was following as she slowly made her way through the thick underbrush and pine trees. All at once, a grizzly bear rose in her path and attacked the pony. She jumped off her pony and escaped, but the bear attacked her, so she fought him to the best she could with her knife. Okay, I'm not sure where this is going. This woman's dead. A grizzly bear versus a knife? Let's see where this goes. Her little dog, by snapping at the bear's heels and distracting his attention from the woman, enabled her for some time to keep pretty well out of his reach. Finally, the grizzly struck her over the head, tearing off almost her whole scalp. She fell, but did not lose consciousness, and while Prostate struck him 4 good licks with her knife, and he retreated. That's retreated. Not killed, not maimed. I mean, we'll see where this goes, but she, near mortal wound. She is going to remember this for the rest of her life, and she kind of just bee stung him into annoyance. After he had gone, she replaced her torn scalp and bound it up as best she could, and then she turned deathly sick and had to lie down. That night, her pony came into camp with a load of nuts and berries, but no rider. The Indians hunted for her, but did not find her until the second day. They carried her home, and under the treatment of the medicine man, all her wounds were healed. I mean, very fortunate woman, very brave woman. I'm not sure why this story is here. I mean, this is like a 1 in a million. She had her wits about her, but so I mean, yes, you know, and when backed into a corner, especially, women can possess great strength, and almost any human can. So, like, I'm not sure what this has to do with being a warrior, though. This is not necessarily, you know, it's like it's not going to war; it's survival.
Fought a grizzly bear and lived. Mm-hmm. Read his fucking biography. How many times do I have to tell you to read it? I'm trying to make it a meme, like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Mm-hmm. Why is this so hard? Can someone please tell the manosphere that you can unlock Apache masculinity by reading Geronimo's autobiography? I love how whenever...
Hell yeah, brother. I mean, that might be all you have to say. Actually, DJ Peach Cobbler, I have a project that I'm interested in doing. And it involves becoming a book club, like what I would call an audio book club. So if you would be interested in reading a book with me over the course of many episodes, we could start with Geronimo, his story. I mean, it seems very captivating, and we could talk about it the entire time. So if you're interested, the offer's out there. I will find somebody to do that podcast with, though. So bite now while the biting is good. Okay, that doesn't need to be in the show. I should edit that out.
Someone does cite John Cremeny, they have to throw in a little burn. So hey, I know that this guy is not someone I should be using, but you know, like there's always this self-consciousness to it. If you're
the juice is too good, whether he's a complete liar or not. He's definitely a liar. I can already tell. You've already set up a great... You have a thesis. John Cremeny is a liar, and he should not be used by scholarly essays. But it's just too spicy. Like, if what he said is like somewhat based on true or complete fabrication, it just like paints... It's too good of a picture to paint for other writers to want to put it in to their tales, to juice up their tales. Like, the guy obviously had juice. That guy he was shooting juice into ladies. I'm going to tell you that. Maybe men. He looks like he might like the fellas. He was still a little too self-conscious about his looks, wasn't he, guys? Like, he was too well composed. You know, like this. And I'll tell you, I've been with a few fellas. Okay, that all said, we should get back into this, but that charisma of the writing is probably what draws them in. They just can't help but want to spice up their own books, their own research papers.
Citing John Cremeny, you either burn the shit out of him as you do so, or you're trying to prove the Apache...
Well, let me go back and hit the one that I missed.
But, you know, like there's always this self-consciousness to it. If you're citing John Cremeny, you either burn the shit out...
Cremeny was inaccurate in much that he wrote about the Apaches. Well, simple enough. Throw him under the bus. But at that point, it's like, well, why was he accurate about this? Why this one? Why are we letting him get away with it again?
As you do so, or you're trying to prove the...
As well as enduring pain, boys were taught to inflict it. They were given captured birds and animals to torture, and their inventiveness was rewarded. The emphasis on torture in Apache life remains shocking in modern sensibilities, despite our latter-day faith in cultural relativism. But from the Indian point of view, an ordeal by pain was part of the order of things. Chapter 3 of Once They Moved Like the Wind. So I'm assuming this is where they cited criminy. I do have to, part of my sickness, whatever it is, thinks that I do think that getting away from some level, and maybe torture is a bit much, but some level of every human, especially every human male, having performed a killing on an animal, has left us, I don't want to say soft, but unprepared for what needs to be done when it needs to be done. So I could see this being in the culture of a people, especially people who are, constantly have to watch their back and are like the enemy is breathing down upon them for the past few generations.
Apache tortured small animals, which, they did some shit, man. The Apache were not Girl Scouts, let's be very clear. Maybe they did torture small animals all the time. It was the mid-1800s. Everyone was a piece of shit. But John Criminy cannot...
The quality of mercy is known among the Apaches. They frequently take bird and animal alive, but inevitably give them to their children to torture. A warrior is seized with delight when his son exhibits superior skills in this way. He looks on approvingly and makes occasional suggestions to the aspiring youth. The squaws are
be used as a source on Apache culture. Child rearing. Do you think the Apache let this man babysit? What?
I hope not. The more I look at this picture, the more suspicious I am. It's not the phrenology. It's not the obvious lies. Something in his eyes. This one might be a diddler.
One of the citations in The Conquest of Apacheria says,
Criminy wrote that sheep could be driven faster than cattle, which is difficult to believe.
John Criminy isn't even trusted as a source on sheep. Why did this person write this? That's the question I ask when I read, any source. Why did Criminy write Life Among the Apaches? John Criminy, to put it bluntly, wanted to convince everyone that he was a big-dicked cowboy who slaughtered jabbering Apache savages. Pussy. He did it for pussy. John Criminy was clearly a deeply...
Hell yeah, brother. What else do we do it for? Why else do I wake up in the morning, get out of bed?
Insecure man, and not particularly
You said bussy, right? Bussy?
Introspective, nor curious about other cultures. Sources cited, read the fucking book. The 300 pages of lies. I did. I had a good time. There's a Skinwalker story. So Criminy has something to prove. He wants to be cool, but he claims to have written the book for another purpose. He claims he wrote this book to help solve the Apache problem.
Oh, God. I might as well say the Apache question. Our government has expended millions of dollars in driblets since the acquisition of California in effort to reduce the Apaches. I'm going to actually get a little closer. As Navajos, who occupy the extensive belt of country which forms the highway for overland migration from the east to the west, but we are as far from success today as we were 20 years ago. The reason is obvious. We have never striven to make ourselves intelligently acquainted with those tribes. Nearly all that relates to them is quite an uncertain and indefinite to our comprehension as that which obtains in the center of Africa. Those who were the best informed on the matter and had given the closest attention were at the same time, most unfortunately, the last capable of implementing their information, while those who were almost ignorant of the subject have been the most forward to give the results of their fragmentary gleanings. If the volume shall have the effect of bettering our present deplorable Indian policy, By letting in some light, it will accomplish the author's object. JCC, San Francisco, August 1868. They like really like that once the whites stopped killing each other, they really got to work on the natives. Now, I think that yet again, there's something about the way that old people, like old-timey writing is, that makes it a little bit hard for me to glean the meaning of, for some reason. I do apologize. You are basically speaking to a illiterate when it comes to cross-era illiteracy. Like, it really, there's something about it just blows my mind away. That said, the vibe I got from this is essentially that we never made a chance. We never tried to create inroads. We never tried to understand each other. And the people who did make strives to understand the Apaches or the Navajo and all those other folks, the ones who did make a strive didn't feel like they understood things well enough to speak on the matter, versus the people who didn't, but just like kind of watched from the sidelines, felt like they were experts. Hence our main character of this video essay.
These Apache, they're a problem, an expensive problem. What are we going to do about this problem? In case one of you liberals starts getting upset about my genocide plans, hear me out. The Apache deserve it. Just look at this fella right here.
Look at that
now,
skull.
If you look right here,
yeah.
That's the suborbital obtusion.
Yeah.
This means that he was violent, so I had to do it. He was sleeping, but I measured his skull. I eyeballed it from a distance.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, that's another thing. How often did they really pull out those tools on people? I would find it interesting. I wonder if we're going to reach a point where we could scan, or if maybe secretly in the labs of scientific research, if they've discovered that they can scan people's brains and understand their general aptitude for a great many thing. I wonder if there's going to be a modern day phrenology where it's all about, some sort of genetic correlation to gray matter, and people getting MRIs ran to prove their intelligence, or their racial category intelligence. It feels like it's almost time for something new like this to come around and sweep the nation. The difference is, would that be more accurate? Time will tell.
See, I'm not violent, as you can see. I barely even enjoyed killing this man.
Of religious ceremonies, the Apaches have very few, and these are limited to the immediate concerns of life. Their prayers for success, if any such are ever made, are addressed to the evil spirit, who is supposed to rule entirely over the apportionment of fortuitous or prejudicial results to the people of this world. It is greatly to be doubted whether the bump of reverence was ever discoverable in an Apache skull.
Actually, I will say that I yet again, another video where I'm going to say something that will probably bite me in the ass. Phrenology, maybe, perhaps, this could be compared to modern day, what is it called again? Biological, I forgot the genetical, I'm forgetting the term right now, but kind of the idea that our genetics explain our society. Evolutionary biology. It's something like that, or sociology. But what I'm trying to say is, that idea, like, oh, if we look at how mating goes, we can explain our own society, and through our genetics. I'm very oversimplifying this. I was very much on top of it just a few years ago. But what I'm going to say is that those people, they always start, like, the low-hanging fruit is usually correct, or at the very least very believable, very much able to be defended. You understand it. But then when this becomes how should I say, almost like, this is the way I make my money, is to have hot takes on this one specific thing. You go deep enough, you keep trying to make hotter and hotter, more interesting and more interesting takes, then you start getting shit results about what you're trying to talk about. I'm really trying to like pull. I wish I could pull evolutionary biology. Yeah, I think so. Something like that. I wish I could pull a great example, but I do remember seeing a video from somebody, because I agree with the broad strokes, like, you know, the 90, like the 80%, whatever, of like the thoughts that have come around from that, you know, the low hanging fruit. But somebody showed, I watched a video from somebody, they kind of upset me because they were like trying to throw the entire concept of the evolutionary biologist out with bad takes, but they did present a lot of bad takes these people had for this science, this sociological science that is like mostly just like speculation, but speculation with educated guesses. And I remember being like, well, yes, I do agree with you. These guys say fucking retarded shit all the time, especially like the ones who are like the rock stars of the movement, the rock stars. But that doesn't mean that everything that they've said always is discredited. And that all is to say that maybe phrenology had some like low-hanging fruit stuff that might have been believable. It's just, started out on the right foot. It's just that once you got midwits and like, trying to justify the science to dumbasses or average Joes, and like these, especially back then without racially charged, you think everything's racially charged now? Jesus Christ, the 1800s. Fuck. Like the French were trying to figure out what aspects in common with all of their skulls made them genuinely smarter than the English, who did the same thing to defend themselves against the Germans, who did the same thing and they all hated, and they were all like, well, the Africans can't be anywhere near us. Like, it's when science with a point gets into the hands of people who want to make a point with it is when it gets dangerous. So I'm just going to say, maybe there's like, I don't know enough to say this, but I'm just saying, like, there might have been some aspects of phrenology that weren't like complete and utter dog shit. It's just the dog shit came in quick, especially back then. And we've seen it happen today with some relatively sound of mind hypothetical sciences.
They invented the devil just to worship him. Them dadgum varmints. Crimini's view of Apache spirituality, of course he knew all about their spirituality, is that they believed in a good deity and a bad deity, and they worshipped the bad one because they were the bad guy. Now, why, right? The god...
Well, I'm just going to say this. They might have been worshiping a deity of retribution, of negative things, in a time where they were constantly at war with a invading, like basically an alien invader. Like, if you knew, or if you really believed that Satan could supercharge you and give you the powers you need to protect your family, and if you get damned to hell, but they could go on to live, you might sell your soul to the devil. Don't we have something called that in our society? Like, come on, brother. Yeah, they maybe they were all sunshine and rainbows and worshiping the good deity up until we got there. We just didn't get to see it. If you walk in on a woman who's like stripping to have coitus, like, and to seduce her partner or husband, and you walk in on her and she starts shrieking at you, because you have ruined this intimate moment. You can't sit there and assume what you're allowed to, but you shouldn't sit there and assume that she is just always a shrieking nude mess. Maybe you just happen to ruin a very important and very a very important moment for her. Well, that's the way I see it. Sound off in the comments, fence sitters. What do you think? Do you think like Americans, Europeans, if they were facing doom like back in the medieval times, don't you think there would probably be a strand of Satanism that would emerge? That's like, yes, we know the devil is evil and selling our souls to him is going to damn us to hell, but we must ask for his power in this trying time. It's the dark side. You would go to the dark side if you believed that it would save your family. Anakin Skywalker. Come on.
pray to would be the nice one. It does not make sense to worship the not nice one. He won't give you anything. Why would you imagine a giant asshole in the sky and then pray to him? Why would you do that? So the Chiricahua Apache worshipped one god named Usin. I genuinely cannot, it better not have been Usin. By the way the Apaches tell it, seemed like a nice guy. Interestingly, Usin did not like it when people dug beneath the earth for gold, so the Apache did not care for neither white people, nor Mexicans, nor dwarves.
Oh.
Deep rock.
Well, trust me, brother, the dwarves didn't care much for them either. Probably called them like, you know, feather hats or something, or featherheads. Dwarves are pretty good with the racism. I'm not a racist, so I'm not like good at racism, but dwarves, oof. It's top tier racist.
Galactic. There, I talked about it. The Apache don't approve. Never played it.
We never prayed against any person, but if we had aught against any individual, we ourselves took vengeance. We were taught that Usin does not care for the petty quarrels of men.
At one point during the Border Commission survey, outside of Apache territory and now amidst the, let's be real here, less bellicose Indians. Yeah, I just called the Apache bellicose. They were the Apache, they're fucking, look at them, they're scary. They skinned white boys, and we'll get into why. So the Border Commission set up a telescope to observe a lunar eclipse. The Pimas and Maricopas, naturally, came to see what all these honkies be doing out here.
The Pimas and Maricopas surrounded us by the hundreds, but as we knew them to be thoroughly peaceful and even generous, no notice was taken of their presence. The telescope was placed in position, and on being asked by a Pima what it was, I carelessly replied that it was a terrific cannon, the shot of which would reach to the moon. As the moonlight began to grow less and less and darker, the chief, Kulo Azul, said to me, "What are you doing?" I replied, "We are shooting and killing the moon."
This made everybody freak out. Can you believe that?
That is what an asshole would say, or at the very least, a pro. Not necessarily, you know, this is not a man of letters. Hey folks, just one more interruption. I just want to remind you that I am also a game designer, and my first game, X Seekers of Fortune, will be coming out soon, before the end of the year, will be delivered into America. So if you want to pre-order your copy, go to xseekersoffortune.com. Down in the description. At that website, you can learn more about the game. You can see the designs. You can learn how to play. You can even schedule a demo with me so that you can know how to play the game, can get a full taste of it through Tabletop Simulator, and make your decision as to whether or not you're going to buy it. So please pick up your copy of X Seekers of Fortune, or just visit our website and see if it's something that would be up your alley. Remember, fortune favors the bold. I am not done making a fool out of them Indians with the moon. John Criminy, probably at some point.
Making a fool of Indians with the moon, though. No, Criminy, ever the prankster, told the Pimas and Maricopas that he can and will shoot the moon again during a later solar eclipse. During this eclipse, Criminy set up a circle of 7 skulls, and lit a ring of fire. He made a big show out of it, like, oh, it's a ritual. And he's
wait. Who the fuck is worshiping the evil god? You're setting up a skull fire ring? My brother in Christ, you're the Satan worshiper.
So did lunar eclipses actually happen around these dates? That was my first impulse to catch Criminy, that no good snake in the grass, in his lie. Isn't that cute? For a split second, I thought John Criminy used dates. I don't believe a word of this shit. What bugs me the most is, where did he get the 7 skulls? For the prank. How did you procure the skulls for your prank, Criminy?
I visited the grazing ground and selected 7 finely polished skulls of Umas, which I kept concealed in a sack.
You walked around and you found 7 skulls, and you put them in a sack. Your skull sack. Your sack for your skulls. Okay, that makes sense. Criminy claims on page 148 that the grazing grounds were once the site of a great battle between the Pimas on one side and 3 allied tribes on the other. I don't believe you, John. I think you looted an Indian graveyard to fill out your skull sack. If any of this shit happened, I can't even... No, it didn't happen. None of that happened. What the fuck are you talking about, John? Also, and this is the part that actually fucked me up. This is the part that, okay. He said, these are Umas skulls. I have 7 Umas skulls.
Yeah.
Obviously. He said there were 4 ethnic groups that fought in that battle on the grazing grounds. He's showing off. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's saying that he can eyeball what Indian they were by their fucking skulls.
Mm-hmm.
John, I'm gonna be generous.
I mean, I would expect any top tier racist to be able to do that. It's just the same way that Cotton from King of the Hill knows that Khan is Laotian just by looking at him. You reach a certain level of racism where you actually appreciate other cultures more than just your average racist. That's where I'm imagining this guy's at. So maybe he could identify Yaoman skulls just by looking at them.
I'm gonna say you did do all this shit. But if that were the case, I am 100% sure that you already had 7 skulls with you. If anyone had a sack of 7 UMass Indian skulls polished and ready to go, it was John Cremony, bringer of civilization. Authority on Apache language, child rearing, and skulls. My sense of humor isn't edgy, it's absurdist, all right? And there's nothing more absurd than this was a Manchu Chinese, and as his phrenial Casbah here indicates, he could not feel pain, and therefore I do not feel guilt. How do I know he was Manchu Chinese? Well, his tonus hoc tua here is very pronounced, and he told me his name was Maxwell. He was an IT guy in San Francisco. Oh, hold on. Yeah, he preferred Max. John Cremony, after the conclusion of the surveying expedition, settled down in California, where he spent his time polishing his UMass skull collection and working at a newspaper and serving as an occasional big dick cowboy badass.
Don't trust journos. End of sentence.
As for hire, you know how it is. That was until the war drums of the Apache called for him once again. Although Cremony signed up to fight in the Civil War, Apache wars were happening concurrently. In general, the Apache caught a few W's during what they called the white boy kerfuffle. Them goddamn graycoats, in spite of their impeccable white skulls, have started a war of rebellion. Cremony would serve in the 2nd California Cavalry Regiment as an officer, as an Air Force veteran, enlisted, obviously, fucking look at me, officers written all over this fucking guy. Oh wow, everyone, LT wrote a book about being a fucking badass. According to every non-Cremony source I can find, he was sort of a shitty officer, so I'm sure he did quite well. But there aren't a lot of non-Cremony sources on Cremony. Cremony wrote all this about himself. No one ever writes about Cremony. What few non-Cremony sources do exist are largely complaints from his contemporaries that he wasn't actually very good at killing Indians. All the same, during this time, Cremony played a role in 2 famous historical events, the aforementioned Battle of Apache Pass and the Long Walk of the Navajo. In the mid-1860s, thousands of Navajo were forced to walk hundreds of miles to the reservation the Army had set up.
Okay, so this is different than the Trail of Tears. I think when I first heard him say the Long Walk of the Navajo, I just instantly thought that this was a alternate title for the Trail of Tears, but I think if I remember correctly, the Trail of Tears goes from the East Coast to, south or east or no, west. Sorry, from the East Coast to the west. So this is different.
In New Mexico, a reservation which would go down in history as among the most deplorable of all. The Bosque Redondo was a reservation built for both the Navajo and the Mescalero Apache, groups with long histories of conflict. Conditions on the reservation were so poor that it would be declared a failure and shut down by the US government after only half a decade. To be perfectly blunt, it was the worst Indian reservation. That was where John Cremony would live his life, among the Apache, as their prison guard at the death camp.
Navajos who would...
So this would be like, and I hate to be so reductive, but this would be like if a Nazi or a German guard at a Holocaust camp, a death camp, wrote a book about their opinions on Jewish and queer culture and gypsies. Remember, I always like to remind people, it's like, the mentally challenged, the gypsies, the Jewish people, the homosexuals, and one other group, the communists, I want to say, that were sent to death camps. The Jewish people just have the best, public relations about it. In retrospect, they've done the best marketing. Navajo, wait, he's about to read it.
Escaped from the Bosque Redondo began returning to their homeland with frightening accounts of what was happening. It was a wretched land, they said. The soldiers prodded them with bayonets and herded them into adobe-walled compounds where the soldier chiefs were always counting them and putting numbers down in little books. The soldier chiefs promised them clothing and blankets and better food, but their promises were never kept. All the cottonwood and mesquite had been cut down, so that only roots were left for firewood. To shelter themselves from rain and sun, they had to dig holes in the sandy ground and cover and line them with mats of woven grass. They lived like prairie dogs in burrows. With the few tools the soldiers gave them, they broke the soil of the Pecos bottomlands and planted grain. But floods and droughts and insects killed the crops, and now everyone was on half rations. Crowded together as they were, disease had begun to take a toll on the weaker ones. It was a bad place, and although escape was difficult and dangerous under the watchful eyes of the soldiers, many were risking their lives to get away.
So as of making this video, there's one video about John Cremeny on YouTube. So we're not just cowboys, we are esoteric cowboys. We have zoomed the microscope of history all the way in on the most useless fucking man I could find. I bought this $50 fucking reference book off Amazon. It's a bunch of cavalry yellow and infantry blue. It's a bunch of fucking army officers in Arizona between 1851 and 1886 by Constance Wynne Altschuler. The worst part is I bought this to chase down a Wikipedia lead, so I can't even brag about it. This tiny little passage in this collection of hundreds of other names, this is all that anyone wrote about Cremeny, beyond some snarky citations. So let's see how fucking big everyone thinks John Cremeny's dick is. Let's see if he convinced
2.5 inches. Final offer.
Everyone. He claimed to have been born at Portland, Maine, possibly true, of Cuban parentage, probably false. His date of birth may have been 1817. It could not have been 1833, as he claimed in 1873. You cannot be a man and lie about your age. That's not dignified. I ain't afraid of no Apache savages. But time, time does frighten us all, doesn't it? He was a compulsive yarn spinner, a fact well known to his contemporaries. On January 31st, 1857, he married Ella A. Hunt. The only child of this marriage died April 20th, 1864, at the age of 4. After 1866, no further mention of Mrs. Cremeny could be found. And some yada yada yada, just ranking, nothing impressive, certainly. And I like the ending. His book, Life Among the Apaches, appeared in 1868. In 1873, he had a job at the Customs House. He died August 24th, 1879. Thanks for watching.
I'm going to answer some patron questions. Samuel Winters.
That was a very interesting video, and I do think it's very interesting that he mentioned that he zoomed in so tightly on one of the most inconsequential, overly cited people of history. This is, every now and then it is truly good to just do a dish piece on somebody who just doesn't need to be part of the conversation anymore.
Asked, regarding the surviving members of the Apache tribe, how similar would you say their cultural and social practices are compared to their forebears? What have they lost as a result of the Apache Wars? Well, I think the important thing you should note is the loss of life, And also, an important thing that I want to illustrate is the Apache were in a constant state of changing. The Apache that John Cremeny found were not the Apache that the conquistadors found. We are talking about centuries of changing in response to European imperialism, and we're really, really going to get into the weeds of that this summer. Jackson Ray asked, how historically accurate is Custer's Revenge for the Atari 2600? Oh, Steve here, and Larson. Anyway, Custer's Revenge is very, very accurate. Grossly Incandescent said,
probably the worst answer. If you know that game, that's probably the worst answer he could have given in terms of just, that's gross, but it's probably true.
A while ago, you said you got into learning about the Aztecs. They're trying to see if those death whistles were ever used. Did you ever find an answer to that? Honestly, not really. Bernal Diaz describes them whistling, but it's not really clear if this is they're using a whistle or just whistling with their lips and, tongues. So I really don't know. The displays of aggression that they would make, it clearly made a very strong impression of him. So, yes, the Aztec were indeed scary as shit.
All right, well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching today's video. I will be getting to the final episode of the Fall of the Aztecs, and I'll be continuing on with the rest of his historical videos that he made over the past few years. I do think I'll end up watching all of DJ Peach Cobbler's videos on this channel, and I will keep contemporary with them. At least all the ones that are like about this, like history videos like this. He did a few that were like more about, well, like they were still history, but they were about like writers, and I'm not sure if I would cover those. Maybe given enough time. I watched them off camera. Given enough time, maybe I'll revisit them. The one on James Baldwin was wonderful and made me want to read James Baldwin's work more, but I'm not much of a reader. I'm kind of dumb. I'm both a fin sitter and a midwit. So, that said, I will continue on, and you should be getting that next Fall of the Aztecs soon. And aside from that, please share this video with somebody who needs to be reminded what bad historical takes look like. Like this video. If you have the opportunity, subscribe to my channel, become a fence sitter, and I'm going to make a concerted effort before the end of the year. I'm going to make that something that you can do by, joining a group, whether it be Patreon or something else. But I legitimately think that us fence sitters need to rise up in these times of just the worst back and forth between two extremes. Embrace midwittery. Become a fence sitter. And with that, please enjoy yourself.